What a game on the eve of the All-Star break. The Heat were in Charlotte, but after a strong start, the offense completely collapsed until a fourth quarter comeback that fell just short, overtime, and then double overtime. But late game heroics from Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, and even Jimmy Butler were enough to seal the deal to keep Miami on top of the Eastern Conference. We'll break it all down for you here on Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation. It's a Friday edition, right before the All-Star break of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat, however you may be listening on YouTube, on Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil, and with me, as you can tell, not Wes Goldberg, my usual co-host, but making her second appearance on the show is Tiffany Meeks, a contributor over at Miami Heat Beat. What the hell we just watched, Tiff? I am still in shock right now.
Oh, first, let me say thank you for having me.
Of course.
That game seemed like it's been like 2 days of my life. I don't know what just happened.
It was like 18 different games in one, too. Like,
Yes.
I know it was a double overtime game, but it was still so many different slices of a different variation, a different iteration of a Heat team. But let's break it all down. The Heat had a great first quarter. They shot 75%. The ball was moving. Everything was crisp, aggressive, bam. Everything looked great. Duncan Robinson getting his shots. It looked like the start of an easy win over a bad defensive Hornets team. But they'd go on to score just a combined 27 points. 27 points for the next two quarters. And after a hot shooting night from Kelly Oubre Jr. and great games from Miles Bridges and Montrezl Herro, it looked like the Heat were dead in the water and down by as much as 14 in the fourth quarter. Then Duncan, who had spent most of the season watching fourth quarters from the bench, caught fire, scored 10 of his 21 points in the fourth. The Heat led by 2, but a Herro dunk tied the game, and then Jimmy botched a jumper at the end of regulation, sending it to overtime. Then it was Lowry's turn to hit big shots, and he did, to put the Heat up by 3 until a Herro free throw once again tied the game at 97, but he missed his second attempt. So Miami had the ball as the overtime was expiring, and Jimmy had a three-point shot, took a three-point shot, had it blocked. So we'll talk about Jimmy's late game heroics later on because it fell just short tonight. And double overtime, however, Miami found just enough energy on both sides of the floor. They just wanted it more. Great defensive plays, great effort rebounding. And Jimmy actually had 5 of his 15 points, including a three-pointer. And the Heat held on to a 111-107 victory. So the game actually puts Miami tied with the Chicago Bulls, but they have a lead over the Bulls. So they're atop the Eastern Conference for yet a week, at least a week until after the All-Star break resumes. But what a game. So much to break down there. I don't even know where to start with because it just, like we said before, it was just like so many different things happened over the course of the game. It looked like it was going to be this hot start. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, another easy game against a Hornets team that doesn't care. And you could see that it was pretty obvious, at least from my perspective, that this team was just, they were looking already ahead to the All-Star break. They were looking to check out, go on vacation. But then something happened in that fourth quarter, again, down 14, and they just refused to give up. It was actually probably one of the most impressive wins of the season for the Heat, although I don't know who gets more credit, whether or not it's the Heat or the Hornets who gave up this game, because they played horribly for most of the game too and still managed to build a huge lead. But go ahead. What are your takeaways for the game?
Yeah, it's so funny because I said in the Heat Beat group chat, I said, this is literally, to me, in my opinion, if they can pull this out, I think it's the best win of the season. I really do.
That's tough. I mean, there's the win against Phoenix, right? I mean, that was a huge one when they were undermanned and everything else like that. And I should mention, no Tyler Herro again, no Dwayne Dedmon, no Caleb Martin either. So those 3 bench players with, not being able to provide that punch from Miami, it seemed like they, as you mentioned to me, they were missing something. They were just looking to get some bench scoring and not getting it from Max Strus or Gabe Vincent, who have been so good for most of the season. Even Omer Yurtseven, the savior, Omer Yurtseven, not quite as effective as everybody would want him to be. But anyway, I don't know. You really think it's the best Heat win of the season?
You know why? Because I think we had all 5 starters intact. So number one, all the guys are healthy. They were all out there. And they figured out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
Just because we haven't seen these starters get down that much and be able to come back. I mean, we really haven't seen these starters that much in general. But
That's
if
true.
you just put it together, we'd say this is for them to be able to pull it out because the offense hasn't looked that great with all five of them together on the court. So
That's
for
true.
them to be able to just pull it out by, by hook or by crook, by Jimmy finally figuring something out,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Kyle coming
yeah.
on when we needed it at the most, and
Yeah.
Duncan getting those closing minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Um, because at some point they do have to start to gel. Like
Right.
there's 20 something games left, so you want this team to be able to be up or be down, but you got to figure out how to win the game. And they did, and it was a savvy win at the end.
Yes.
Um, and I guess nobody's probably talking about it, but yeah, Kyle scored, Duncan scored, Jimmy scored, but literally all night the little things were being done by PJ. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but all night, PJ was literally fighting under the basket for his life, trying to grab boards, trying to box out. Montrezl Harrell, who is, horrific on defense, he's a
Right.
monster under the basket. I will give him
That's
credit for
true.
that. He's a monster. Yeah.
It's funny because watching it now, a couple of things really stood out. I guess I was watching everybody else's performance, and I honestly, I'll have to rewatch it. I don't, I don't know that it stood out to me how impressive PJ's numbers were, or just his overall performance. And then I'm looking at the box score, and he winds up with a plus minus 27. I had no idea that his minutes were so impactful. Like that he's going to do the dirty work. That's
Hmm.
just who he is. But I just
Right.
hadn't realized it was that because there was moments there where it seemed like he was a step slow on defense, maybe
Hmm.
caught in a switch against LaMelo Ball or something like that.
Right.
Maybe even Miles Bridges. Bridges kind of was roasting everybody all night,
Oh
but it
yeah.
felt like a couple plays there where PG might have given up an easy score, and I guess those are what stood out to me. But you're right. I'm glad you brought it up because I mean, for a guy like Tucker, not a great offensive night, although he did finish 6 of 12. That's another thing too. Like, I mean,
Yep.
that's impressive. He doesn't have the corner
Hmm.
3-point shot dialed up the way he normally does, but still
Yep.
1 of 4 from 3-point range, finished with 15 points and a plus 27. I mean, 10 rebounds too. I mean,
Hmm.
one of 3 starters with double digit rebounds. And I guess that's that's what's going to happen when you shoot 40% from the field and 29% from three.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of rebounding opportunities. But yeah, that's incredible. And look, I'm glad for PJ. I'm glad he needs the rest too. I'm glad that he's
Hmm.
not like participating in a 3-point contest or anything like that. That would have been ridiculous there. But it's a lot of positives from the Heat. I am glad that they did find a way to pull it all together. And you bring up a
Hmm.
good point that they figured it out by nook or by crook, as you said, and had the kind of energy towards the end there because they looked listless. Like I'm seeing the
Yes.
Twitter timeline, and I know it's Twitter, easy to
Right.
kind of write it off and everything like that. But people are calling this Heat team lazy, and I didn't see lazy.
No,
I saw. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I no, they're definitely not lazy. I think there's just a lot of things happening. Like it's the day before vacation. And you
Yep.
know how we all are the day before vacation. So everybody's mind is elsewhere, but you
Right.
still got to do the job at hand. And that's just
Right.
literally they looked a little bored. They didn't look lazy
That's
because
that's that's possible. Yeah, that's possible. I didn't
because
see
there's a
bored, but yeah, I mean, it looked interesting.
yeah, I didn't think they were being lazy. I mean, and there were points where, older players are going to get outworked by younger players. That's
Sure.
just the reality of it. And Charlotte has a team of young guys that they just want to get out and run. And it's gonna, and the Heat team, they can't run for an extended period of time during the game. Like we're not built to do that. We're built to be opportunistic in our running. And once we lost that lead, Charlotte was able to just get out and run and get into fast break, get into their secondary breaks. And we looked a little listless. And we also looked like we didn't know what to do.
Mm,
I definitely would say we didn't look lazy.
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up.
Yeah.
I don't think so either. Like I think the All-Star break is a huge consideration for sure. Like
Hmm.
that's just Jimmy's got to travel to Cleveland tomorrow with Spo. It's going to be weird. It's like I don't think anybody wants to be a part of this thing, and yet
Right.
it's kind of like a requirement. And you're going to
Right.
say all the great things and be like, "Oh, it's an honor to be here" and everything else. Like I've been there. They don't want to be there. It's
Right.
exhausting.
Right.
Like All-Star
Right.
break for the players is a really a long and arduous process because you're going from one function to another. You've got all these events. You've got to set up these PR things you've got to
Right.
do, and then you've got to go and deal with media. And we're assholes when it comes to dealing with players too. So they're gonna. Have you been to an All-Star game for as media by any chance? Because it's so.
No.
It is. Oh, it is something. Let me tell you. Like it is 1,000 people, and I think now it'll be a little different with COVID restrictions and things of that sort. But they're sitting up at a podium, and you've got like people from all over the world, and you've got international media and like difficult to understand English asking all sorts of ridiculous questions, like
Right.
if you could have 5 people at any dinner, who would it be, and things of that sort. It's like it's 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I've been up since 3. What do you want from me? I don't know.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln, sure, why not? It's like, what are you going to say at that point? But anyway,
Right.
it was a good game. They found a way to
Yeah.
win, and I think that ultimately that's the takeaway there. Maybe they should never have gone to this point, but there are, as you said, a lot of extenuating factors, and you don't
Right.
have that boost of energy from guys like Tyler and Caleb, and
Mm-hmm.
even the mechanic on occasion coming in there and doing what he does. So that was, they probably would have won it. They should have won it easily. They didn't,
Right.
but they found a way to find a way to win, and that's all that matters at this point. Right before you go now into the All-Star break, you take a well-deserved vacation, and
Yeah.
hopefully you can find some energy in the second half of the season. But you know what? We'll take a break here, and we'll find out. Well, we'll get Tiff's opinion on who deserves the most credit for the game, aside from PJ Tucker, because I think there's a lot of credit cookies to share, and then we'll go into some bigger takeaways regarding closing minutes and whether or not Duncan Robinson might be deserving of some more opportunities in the last segment. But first, a reminder that this show is sponsored by betonline.net. Football might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Thank you so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to the Locked On Now channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. I'm here with Tiffany Meeks of the Miami Heat beat, and we're talking a little bit about the 111-107 victory from Miami over the Charlotte Hornets. And here's the time of our show after every postgame recap, after every postgame win, where we give out credit where credit is due, and we give out credit cookies is a new segment that me and my co-hosts have been working on. Tiff, first I got to ask you, as the guest on today's show, if you have a choice of what cookie to give away to Heat players who deserve the credit, what cookie would it be?
I am going
No
to go
wrong
with
answers here.
Thin Mints.
Oh, that is the wrong answer. You picked the worst one. The
I
worst
don't eat
possible
dairy.
answer, Tiffany.
I don't eat dairy. That's the only thing I can eat.
The
It's
ungodly
vegan.
combination. That's great. I look, I'm a vegetarian. Thin mints and chocolate should never go together. That is just a terrible combination. That is the worst. I feel like shutting it off right now, but I've got to do this. Contractual obligations and everything. I can't believe you picked the one cookie. Like Wes just brought this up 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, Thin Mints again? I'm so sick of hearing about mint and chocolate. But anyway, if it's for vegan purposes, I get it. You don't eat milk. You don't consume milk. That's fine. That's it. That's all right. All right. So let's move on then. You get 5 cookies to give out. Let's say 5 cookies on the night. How do you dole out those cookies for the show?
I'm going to give 3 of those
Here.
cookies. I'm giving
3.
3. I'm giving 3, and they're frozen, which is the best way to eat them.
I've heard.
I'm giving 3 to Duncan. I'm giving them to
Wow.
Duncan. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we've been roasting him, on Twitter, in chats, on the side, on buses, people in their car. We've been roasting him everywhere. And he got the minutes, and he stepped up in the minutes.
They did.
Sometimes guys get the minutes and they don't know what to do with it. He did it,
Yep.
And it wasn't to no fanfare. He just did his job, ran back down the court, just like nothing happened. I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that he just kept pushing. He kept pushing. He kept trying to break through, and he finally did. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, 44 minutes of action tonight. Like, I mean, a well-deserved break for him going into the All-Star break. But 6 of 13, all 13 of his field goal attempts from three-point range. Made three
Mhm.
free throws as well. Got that big and one play
Mhm.
towards the end of regulation. He played well, I have to say.
Yeah.
And I know we've seen incremental growth from him in multiple facets. Like he had the nice pass going. He finished with 5 assists. That really
Mhm.
stood out to me. Like he didn't. I know they were doing a good job of trying to defend the initial action when they got the ball to Duncan, and he could run off the
Right.
screen, kind of rescreen a little bit. But he was making some nice pocket passes as well too. I
Mhm.
really liked how he was working that PNR role with Bam most of the night. There was
Mhm.
a nice play. It led to a Adebayo foul at one point, and it just Adebayo seemed to respect it. I saw him talk to Duncan, and it seemed like that connection continues
Right.
to grow and develop. And to see that more and more, he had some nice defensive plays too. He took a
Yes.
charge on one occasion, stonewalled Miles Bridges, who was roasting
Mhm.
everybody else. I mean, for him to be able to keep his feet, not get into egregious foul trouble or anything like that, and still be able to have an impact late in the game with his
Right.
three-point shooting, it seemed like his shooting was when Miami was their best offensively in the first quarter and the fourth quarter when they needed it the most. That's where
Mhm.
Duncan stepped up with his
Yep.
shooting. So three thin mints to Duncan Robinson. All right, I like it. I like it. All right, you got two more. Who do you want to give those out to?
Um, I'm gonna give one to Spo
Okay.
because just when I thought we're gonna get one more Jimmy fadeaway,
Ha!
we got the we got the Kyle Lowry going to the basket layup. So
That was nice.
I'm
That
yes,
he'd run
yes,
again against what was it? I think the Chicago Bulls early in the
it
season. He
was.
ran that
Yes,
same
it was.
play. Yeah. Sideline out of bounds play. Really nice
Yep.
diversion there from Duncan Robinson. Kyle looks like he's going to one end. They're strong. I think they're front loaded on the backcourt there, and then all of a sudden he cuts to
Mhm.
the hoop there, got a wide open layup. Really nice work from him.
Yep.
Hornets had no response for it too, so I'm sure it'll crop up on everybody's
Oh
reports from
yeah.
now on, scouting reports. But at least for a second night, it was able to work.
Mhm.
It was also second overtime, so everybody was probably mentally fatigued as hell, and they were like, "Oh, I can't remember seeing that play from like
Right.
30 seconds earlier in the day." But yeah, it worked. It was a good call from Spo, and you're right. It,
Yep.
it was infinitely better than another contested jumper from Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, you got one more cookie left. Who do you want to
And
give it out
and
to?
and with that said, the
Oh,
last cookie in the bag that's
all right.
kind of broken, little crumbly,
I
but you're
know who
still
it's
gonna
going
take
to.
those crumbs. It's going to Jimmy
I, you know,
for not having a conscience and just
that last shot, it felt like it made up for it. And I guess, all of us as fans, as media, whatever, we have some short memories there because we live and die. He finished with an abysmal 5 of
yes.
24 shooting from the field, 1 of 8. That has to be a season high for three-point attempts. I
Oh,
know that he's taken a
it's
lot
like
of threes, a lot more threes, but
oh,
that that was yeah, that's not good. Like he wasn't even getting to the line so much. And I had texted you
no.
before. I was like, if I see more foul baiting from him, it seemed like he at some points there he was just like kind of driving aimlessly to the
Yeah.
hoop, and it's like, oh, I've seen this guy. He's in Philadelphia now. His name is James Harden.
Mhm.
I did not like those kind of performances from Jimmy. I'm sure some viewers and listeners will give me crap for it, but I don't mind the way he normally draws fouls, but this
Right,
was
right.
more of the baiting kind. It's like, look at me throwing my arms up in the air. Clearly there was
Mhm.
contact, and that just didn't sit well with me. But you're right though, conscienceless. Like I mean, just for him to be able to take all those shots, contested, challenge, bad, falling short, like missing completely, and then you know what, late in the double overtime of an
Yeah.
exhausting game to take that shot, and then to have the quite frankly the balls to be able to walk to the bench saying, "I told you I was going to hit one." It's like,
Yes.
dude, you're bound to hit one of them. You're an NBA ball player. Like, I mean, anybody could have hit one. At that point, I don't know. You gotta love Jimmy, man. Like
Yeah.
it's fun to watch him play sometimes, but really, really, really good game. Fun overall. Like Bam had a quietly good game. I
Yeah.
think he was doing a lot of like kind of PJ Tucker, not that aggressive offense that we've seen from Bam of late, but good defensive possessions here and there,
Mhm.
particularly late in the game when they really needed it. Led the team with 13 rebounds to go along with 5 assists. Also 3 blocks too, a couple of really
Mhm.
key ones. I thought at one point that it looked like after I can't recall the block who he had, but it looked like he was grabbing that right hand, and of course, that's his hand that
Mm.
sidelined him for almost 2 months early in the season. So I hope we don't get a report of another injury or anything like that. And knowing
Right.
Bam, he's gonna say something about it in the post game presser about like, oh no, I'll be fine. And then of course
Right.
he said that last time, and next thing you know, he wound up missing almost 2 months. So, um, well, that's good. I'm glad that you gave out the cookies you did. I'm trying to think if anybody else deserves anything. I mean, you know what? I would give if I had cookies to give out, I would give most of them to Lowry because I feel like he really stepped up there. 6 of 11 from 3 point
Yeah, he
range. A
did.
fantastic game from him offensively. He was kind of quiet for most of the first 3 quarters, but then towards the end, they really ignited offensively, and he was really, really dominant too. The 3 point shooting, I know, has been ticking positively ever since he came back from his
Right.
prolonged absence due to personal reasons. But either way, he looks like he's been at another level. I guess we could talk about that in the next segment because we've got some issues with the closing lineup, and not a lot of people are concerned about who starts or who closes,
Hmm.
and who's the guy who should have the ball in his hands in the last second. So we'll save these conversations for the next segment. I'm here with Tiffany Meeks. You're listening to Locked On Heat, but before we move on, just another note that today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. This is the time of year where most of you have probably given up on your New Year's resolutions. Tiff, do you have New Year's resolutions by any chance?
No.
No, you don't. You're not a big resolutions person.
No. I
All right.
don't keep them, so I just don't do them.
Oh, there you go. I mean, well, this is the thing. A lot of people, when they have resolutions about eating healthy, they don't stick to them. But that's because they're missing Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar ever. Have you ever had a Built Bar, Tiff?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you should try it. They have a mint infusion one too, which not my
Oh.
favorite, but you might like it. I don't know if they're dairy free or not. I'm sure they probably have some vegan options, although I haven't explored that myself. But they're soft, 100% covered in chocolate, easy to chew. You don't even know that you're having a protein bar, but you're getting all the nutrients that you might be looking for in a protein bar. They've got these new products called Puffs. They're protein infused marshmallows, so they're fluffy,
Oh.
marshmallowy. They're great. Not just a protein bar, they're a real treat. So go to built.com right now and scroll down the chart so you can find all the different flavors. You can get a mixed box with all of your favorites. It's such a great option so that you can, keep some for yourself, give some out to friends and family. You never know. Lots of different flavors to choose from. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15, but get 15% off only at built.com. Just a reminder that you can always reach us via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com or via Twitter using the hashtag AskLHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show and leave a review. So many people sending in comments lately on YouTube or via email and everything else. We'd love to hear from all of our listeners and viewers. Uh, Here with Tiffany Meeks of the Miami Heat Beat, we're breaking down Miami's win over the Charlotte Hornets. And I think what stood out to a lot of people watching the game was the fourth quarter performance of Jimmy Butler. Not great. I know we've talked about it throughout the show. Is it? Is it just? We talked about this in the most recent episode, Wes and I, about him being the closer.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any argument that he's going to be the guy they go to in waning moments. The fact that Spo
Right.
was able to deviate that from to some degree, I think he's still going to have the ball in his hands every time. I don't know what's happened with his offense because it just feels like he was forcing the shot. The one in regulation there where he just took that fadeaway jumper and completely missed everything.
Hmm.
Not a great look for him. I've seen him hit that shot before. We've seen him hit that shot before.
Right.
It seems like they would be likely for him to be able to at least have a good chance of making it. That was not the case today, and it was just made worse by the fact that he's been hitting or taking 3-point
Hmm.
attempts all game long. Do you have any question about who the closer is on this team, or do you think it's still Jimmy 100%?
Um, it's interesting because I feel like it could be Jimmy taking the shot, but I
Mhm.
think I'd like to see the ball in Kyle's hands.
Yeah.
Because I think what
Is
happens
this?
is if we start out with Jimmy with the ball, then
Yeah.
it's so easy for the defense to just focus in on him and that's it.
Why does he hold the ball? Like,
And
do
that
you see anything? Yeah, do you see anything in the way he just like it's like he's milking the clock, and I know
right.
he's trying to get the last shot off, but it almost feels like and I had these problems with Dwayne as well during his playing career. There were moments there where he was just holding it incessantly, and then would force a bad shot. Yeah, he hit more than his fair share of game winners, But I think towards the tail end of his career, those became, harder to get to.
Right.
And I see that same transition with Jimmy, where he's just like holding the ball. He thinks he's going to be able to get the shot off, and
Right.
it's a bad shot every time he does. So
Right.
I don't know if there's something that you see there.
I felt like when he took that first shot at the
Hmm.
end of the game, well,
Regulation,
the
yeah.
regulation,
Yeah.
there was like no off-ball movement happening either. So I feel
No,
like everyone
everybody
was
was
just
frozen.
standing and watching, which
Ball
makes
watching,
it
yeah.
so much easier for the defense to guard you. If you're not going to move, then
Right.
I can put all my attention on Jimmy. Um, I just feel like he always wants to just go for
Be
the
the
win
savior.
and
Yeah.
yep, and go for the win. Which is fine, but like I'd rather see somebody else setting up the play and maybe
Isn't that
him
on
moving.
Spo then? Isn't that on
Yeah,
Spo to some degree? Like he
yeah,
has to be able to like put in some off-ball action there just to keep
yeah,
defenses guessing. Because you never know. Like, I mean, if like, as offensive players, if they're ball watching, that's understandable. But defensively, they probably get caught in that too. It's like everybody knows the
right,
ball's going to Jimmy. He's going to do something
right,
with it. If you get one back cut from like Bam or Duncan or something like that, and get a wide
yep,
open reverse layup at the rim, Jimmy's a savvy enough playmaker where he'll make that pass even if he wants the
right,
ball in his hands. At least that's what I think. He's
right,
LeBron-esque in that sense. He's like LeBron. He'll be able to make that right play. At least
right.
that's my take on it. But there's also another factor that I'm sure a lot of people are considering too. That is this all a moot point because Tyler's not in the game? Would he be the guy to get the closing shot off?
It's interesting because I've always been the type of person that felt the last shot goes to if someone has the hot hand. So honestly, even tonight, after a certain point, I thought Duncan or Kyle should be shooting the ball.
Yes.
That's literally how I look at it. But it's interesting because a lot of people I was talking to tonight, they kept bringing up Tyler, and this is where we need him and we miss him, and it's true. I also think they've become uncomfortably reliant on him.
Because of his ability to create a shot for himself.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the situation tonight that he wasn't there. I like the
Yeah.
fact that you didn't have him to rely on, that these five guys were going to have to figure it out. Because there's going to
Mhm.
be points where Tyler's not going to be in that closing lineup,
Yeah. Or hit the
because
shot, or
or
even if
hit the
he's not
shot.
supposed to. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I mean, we've seen the same ball watching thing. It happens with Tyler, and I think it's
Yep,
a lot more. It's a lot more quickly because it's during regulation time. It's not like
right,
at the end of a possession or something like that. With Jimmy at the end of possession, it's like 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 9 seconds. The clock just winds down.
yep,
With Tyler, it's this constant pounding of the ball, dribbling over
yep,
dribbling, and then finally he finds some space and he frees himself and
hmm,
gets to the rim or something like that. But there's a lot of that same thing too, where it's like four guys, other than three guys and Dwayne Dedman, because I think Dedman's kind of
yeah,
figured out the timing alongside Tyler to some extent.
hmm,
But yeah, I see a lot of that same ball watching aspect as well.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was great that they had the opportunity to figure it out without, like, because we know if Tyler's there, he probably would have been in tonight because we needed the offense. I think
Yeah.
Spo would have said, okay, you guys are going to have to cover for defense, but we need him out there
Mhm.
for offense. So he would have been out there,
Yeah.
but I think they just have to just figure it out because there's no written law that says your closer needs to be one guy every single night.
Right.
You know, we have enough guys on this team where other people can get their opportunities, and we saw it tonight. If we didn't know it already, we know Kyle can turn it on. We don't need him doing it every night, but when it's needed, if no one else has it, it looks as if he can get you a few buckets in the fourth quarter. You don't want to
For
rely on
sure.
him to be
For
that
sure.
guy, but on a
Right.
random
Right.
Tuesday, he could do it.
Yeah. It's funny because so much of the Heat offense is so egalitarian in that they're constantly sharing the ball, and there's this one night it's a guy scoring 25, and the next night he's scoring two, and he's okay with that.
Mhm,
But when it comes to these late game possessions, it's like get the ball to Jimmy. We know it's going to go to Jimmy, etc. And I think that's just kind of the culture of the NBA. You have Michael
mhm,
Jordan, you have Kobe Bryant, you have guys
right,
taking the big shot, the expectation, and then if you have like LeBron making that corner pass to somebody, it's like, oh, why doesn't he have the
right,
clutch gene and all the kind of crap
right,
that comes with it? So I wonder how much of that, we see it from Jimmy. Like Jimmy, not 99% of the game, he's like, oh, I'll make the right pass. We've seen him overpassing when
mhm,
he's under the hoop and has a wide open layup, and yet late game situation is like, nope, we're gonna live and die by this shot no matter what happens
Right.
to it. So it's just weird how that kind of change in mentality takes place, and I can understand it. Like, there's a incredible amount of ego that goes into being a
Hmm.
superstar at the NBA. You want the opportunity to take that clutch shot, but somebody who stepped up today, and you keep mentioning him, Duncan Robinson, and as I mentioned before, sitting out for a lot of fourth quarters today. I know Spo mentioned in his post game presser that his shot was falling, that he's been improving on defense, and so that's why he didn't feel like it was a risk to leave him out there. And of course,
Right.
without Tyler, that makes it a lot easier to get somebody out there against Dallas. I felt like Duncan would have been a huge help because it just seemed like their offense was so completely stagnant late in the game
Right.
that they really needed some kind of shooting. And then tonight he goes with Duncan. He winds up having that big fourth quarter. Do you think this is the trend moving forward, or is it going to be just more of a night to night basis?
Um, I think it'll be a night to night basis. I also think that like if we look at it from a numbers standpoint, Duncan hasn't played as many minutes as a lot of the other guys.
Yeah.
So he's just a lot fresher, especially like
Yeah.
tonight. He looked fresh in the two overtimes. Like he didn't look like he was dragging or huffing and puffing because he doesn't get the minutes. So tonight he was fresh. The shot looked good. He had lift on it. But I think once this team is at its apex and whole, I think it's just going to be a night to night basis because you've got guys who can rotate in that closing lineup. You got Tyler. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb might sneak in there for a night. Um,
Victor
we
Oladipo.
we still we still got Vic in the freezer. So, it could be pick your
Not
poison at some
literally.
point.
Well, actually, kind of literally. He's in South Dakota right now. I mean, South Dakota is dope. I say, yeah, I'm sure, bro.
Yeah.
Like, no one's buying that. I get he cultured through and through. I can appreciate it, but ain't nobody
Yeah.
buying that you're having a great time at Sioux Falls, South Dakota. What's your expectation now that you're here with on the show? What do you think? What do you think happens with Vic? What are you looking forward to seeing the most?
I'm actually just looking to see him get out there and just have fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to assume if he's healthy, he's going to be out there. So I'm going to put the health aside because they're not going to throw him out there if he's not ready.
Yep.
So I think if he's having fun, I think we're going to get the best version of him that's available to him. That's what I think. I think he can help us in so many ways if he's healthy,
For sure. For sure.
especially where we've been slipping the last couple of games is the defense.
Yeah.
He can, between him and Caleb, they can tighten up so many of those screws in addition to Jimmy, Bam, PJ, and Kyle. So, and the offense is going to be extra. Like to me, that's like the cherry on top of the sundae. Him
Yeah.
getting downhill, either getting in for the dunk, the layup, or kicking it out. Because the one thing I think people never talk about, I'm not sure if he's a high assist guy, but he is a willing passer. I
For
will I
sure.
will say that about him. He's a willing
For
passer.
sure.
And I think people don't talk about that enough. So you imagine him getting downhill and you've
Yeah.
got Duncan in on one wing and you have Tyler on the other wing, or you got Gabe in. He's going to give the ball up if somebody's open. So I think
Yeah.
that's another thing that we don't talk about.
For sure. Those bench units with him, Max Strus, Gabe, like that's four shooters or three shooters, Oladipo, and maybe Dwayne Dedman. That's a
Hmm.
pretty good unit there. Like, I mean,
Yes.
I don't know if that's starting level, but I mean, they've been starters. All those players have been
Yeah.
starters at one point or another this season. And so it could definitely be pretty dominant. I
Hmm.
want to temper my expectations, but I am like many watching the
Right.
show, like really looking forward to seeing him healthy and seeing him
Right.
happy out there because it's been such a weird couple seasons for him. And like,
Yeah.
when you see guys like that are right at the point of cashing in and getting the well-deserved contract and then they get hurt,
Hmm.
that always sucks to see. So I hope, I don't know what happens with him next season. I don't know if he's going to get his money or not, but at least for now, at the very least, we should hope that for his happiness and for him to be able to
Right.
contribute. And if he's close to the player that he was last year and couple of years before that, before the injuries, this Heat team is really, really good. I can't
Hmm.
help myself. Like I've been saying that all season long in the
Yeah.
preseason ever since I acquired Kyle Lowry. These are the moments you saw that Kyle game today. We've seen it on
Hmm.
occasion. He changes so much about this team, makes them really, really, really good on a night when you don't have to necessarily rely on Jimmy or Tyler's not available. You get a big
Right.
performance from Kyle and everything else as well. Thank you so much for joining me, Tiff. I really
Oh, you're
appreciate it.
welcome. Thanks for having
Tell,
me.
yeah, of course. Tell my listeners and viewers where they can find you and all of your great work.
Well, I mean, as you know, you can find me with Miami Heat Beat, or you can hit me up on Twitter, Tiffany Meeks
Yep.
23. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hangover
Yeah.
Time, Podden, G, Alf, the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, look for us.
How does it feel to do a game recap without having to drink? I don't know. I mean, that's not the norm, I suppose, but was it a little
Oh, I mean,
unusual?
no, no, no. I actually had an early morning, so
Oh,
I don't need anything to coast me into the night. I'm good.
okay. Well, thanks again for joining us. Thank you so much to all of you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Remember that every episode is always free and available wherever you get the show. So make sure to subscribe to get the best coverage available. Make sure to also check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. On behalf of Tiffany Meeks, this is David Ramil signing off for now.